Welcome back to Lane Switching. Today, we're downtown Ottawa, and I'm here with my first ever producer on the show. We got none other than Big Z in the building. How are you doing today, man? Thank you for sitting down and doing this.
No problem, bro. Feels good to be here, First producer interview feels good.
Yeah, bro, for sure. So let's just start off the top. Let's talk a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your upbringing, early life.
Yeah, bro. So me, I'm actually not from Canada. I was born in the U.S. I was born in a city called Ypsilanti outside of Michigan. It's about 30 minutes from Detroit. So me, I grew up there for about 7 or 8 years, and then I moved here when I was like 7 or 8, yeah. And pretty much like half my childhood was in Michigan, and then half my childhood was over here. So when I got to Canada, it was not that big of a culture shock because we're like pretty
Yeah.
similar with them, I would say, in the U.S. But it was still a little bit of a culture shock because my mom was Canadian and whatnot. So like we already had like my mom and dad actually had passports from Canada, so it was like not hard moving here and everything. But it was a bit of a culture shock for sure. In terms of music wise, on my mom, I grew up with the '80s vibe a lot, '80s music, and my dad's side, I grew up listening to a lot of Beatles, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I mean, like, anything else I would say, like, hobbies as a kid. I was into planes a lot when I was a kid, still am now. And I was also doing into martial arts a lot. I did Taekwondo for a while, still do it right now, but not Taekwondo. I do Muay Thai, MMA, and a lot of muscle training outside.
Dope. So you said your parents weren't really well, they were into different music, but it wasn't really hip hop.
Yeah, it was.
What got you into hip hop?
Um, so my mom and my dad were actually both classical musicians. My mom was a clarinetist, my dad a violinist, and pretty much how I got into hip hop is this my first ever Travis Scott song that I listened to. Sorry, Antidote. That's what got me into hip hop really. Before that, I was really just listening to Beatles in the '80s.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, around what age would you say you kind of started picking up the music aspect of like not just listening and not a consumer, but as like actually someone who's creating music, someone who's like you are now producing?
I've been playing instruments for a while. So I grew up. I've been taking piano lessons for a while when I was younger. Um, I did a bit of guitar, but mostly piano when I was younger. And in 2020 is when I started really. I was listening to a lot of Rod Wave, going through a hard time. And some of the songs when I was listening to Rod Wave mostly, but any other artist in general, I kind of just like thought to myself, if I could change something about the music and the instrumental playing, I'd be like, this is what I would change, this is what I would change, blah, blah, blah. So then after that, that's when I started making beats. My friend helped me set up FL Studio on my computer and whatnot. He showed me how to like use it through Discord and whatnot, like what all the buttons do, how to make beats, how to make melodies, how to find good drum kits. And that's pretty much where it went from there, and just been locked in ever since.
Yeah. Obviously, initially you grew up in Michigan, but you moved to Ottawa. What exact year was that when you moved to Ottawa?
I think like 2000, right when 2011 hit is when I got into Ottawa. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you've been here for obviously over 10 years now, and obviously somebody who's been making music and producing beats. If you could compare a sound of another city to this city, to Ottawa, what other city do you think is most comparable to Ottawa?
To be honest, Ottawa doesn't have a signature sound of its own.
Fair.
It's not even in a bad way either. There's just let's say we compare Ottawa. Let's say I'm not comparing like the sound of Ottawa in an accurate way to Detroit, but let's say we were to compare it to Detroit's sound. Detroit has a sound of its own. The producers that backboned and pioneered Detroit's sound, it has a typical sound that you hear. Whether it's Detroit or Flint, you hear the influence, and you can say, "Oh, this is a Detroit type of beat."
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really would hear something from Ottawa and say, "Oh, this is an Ottawa type beat." It's like, but it's not a bad thing at all because it gives room for a lot of artists in Ottawa to really just make whatever music they want, hop on whatever type of beats that they want to hop on. That's how it is.
How has it been producing that diversity of artists out here? Do you find it like more challenging rather than if you were maybe like situated in the States where you're at a city where it's like, okay, so and so and so and so I'm producing with today. I'm probably going to be making the same type beats and working with the same way.
To be honest, I would say Versatility is key to being a good producer too. You need to be able to make a lot of different sounds, make your own sounds as well. You know, a lot of producers out there. This is not bashing anybody in any type of way. You know, some people cannot make their own melodies out there. They can't. They can't go get a plug-in, understand chord progression and music theory and how it works. Fun fact: I actually did not study music theory. I just kind of know how to make a melody in a way, what chord progression to use, how to really have have my music sounding harmonic. I just know intentionally because I grew up with music. You know, I had music around the house 24/7 around me when I was a kid. So what makes sense to me, I already know, like already will work. You know,
Yeah.
and I would say Ottawa is great because you don't like it's not like a city that's like on the map as much as Florida or Detroit, but that diversity of artists allows me to, you know, keep not having to make the same thing every single time.
Yeah,
I'm
it
making
keeps
a
it
beat.
fresh.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I think what it was last year now, you dropped your debut producer album,
Yes,
Catching
sir.
Z's, and that was numerous Ottawa artists. So obviously having a wide range of sounds there, and then a second disc where it had multiple tracks from one artist, Tresmain,
Yeah,
and a few other artists. Was that second disc a American disc?
it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. It was.
So how obviously how did that whole project come together?
Really, it took way longer than I thought it would. As my first album, it was much more of a learning experience than an official, you know, a whole project for clout. It was really a learning experience. There's so many things that I had to change. You know, I had to take it off DistroKid at one point. I changed to a better distributor for the album. You know, um, some artists sometimes didn't like their verses, so I came and re-recorded it. Some artists were like, "Nah, I'm not fucking with the beat." Finally, you know. So it's like, it's not anything to get mad about either. You know, it's a whole process to make an album, especially as a producer from the start. Because as an artist, you really just need to look at, oh, I need to find a good beat selection. I need to buy all these beats so I can release them on the platforms, which some obviously, by the way, don't. And then as a producer, you have so many artists you're looking out for. And at one point I was there like, oh my god, am I gonna release this album on time? You know, I initially actually planned to release it for summer 2024, but it just got to the point where, you know, I want to release quality.
Of course.
I'm gonna have to wait till October,
Yeah.
and my album actually didn't fully drop at the same time. I released it on SoundCloud and YouTube first, and then my distributor took a long time to get it out to official monetized streaming platforms, so that definitely took a while.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And what was it? Why did you kind of decide to do part of it just American and part of it strictly Ottawa?
That's a good question. To show that, to be honest, I would say there's a sound difference for sure in the US and Canada, but it was just to say because I was born in the US, so like I'm part American, you know? It's
Yeah.
like I have that American part of me, but I'm also in Canada as well, you know? My sound is not just in Canada and the US, and it really shows people, you know, I could work with even more countries too. Let's say like somebody who speaks Spanish hops on the beat, whether they're from South America or Spain, if they even have like, you know, just worldwide, international, really. That's like not the end goal, but it would be something to show like, you know, the potential that I have with my sound.
For sure. For sure. And, you know, it's very different when you're producing for somebody else, when you're producing for your own album. Whether it was this album or working with somebody else, how do you kind of balance the artist's creative vision with your creative input? Like, how do you know when to put in the input and when do you just, you know, let them go and let them do their thing?
That's a good one. Sometimes for the most part, I didn't really have to actually restrict, quote unquote, let's say any of the artists on my album. You know, I let them do their thing. Actually, you know, for 4G Auto Rims, that track on the album, D Silsa and Tweezy, that is not the original beat that they actually used.
Okay.
I actually put the beat on the vocals in the background. The one that Tweezy did, Biden, that was actually the original beat that they used for 4G Auto Rims. You can, like, if you listen to it, for anybody watching this, you can hear the same key, the same BPM that they used. So I was in the studio after they had just finished spitting, you know, all the bars and whatnot, and they're like, hold on, let's fuck around and find out real quick. I go in my vault, I grab this one beat and I put it on the background. I'm like, this sounds 10 times better. We're dropping this one. And then Tweezy's not like, oh, yo, but I fucked with that beat super heavy. So, I let him go make a track Biden, that one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Okay, sick. Yeah, that's fair. And obviously some great talent on that album, but you've been featured, or I guess other bigger name artists have used your beats and stuff like that. Some of them, Lil Yachty, Lil Double O, Skrilla. What was maybe the most surprising beat usage you saw? Which artist was like, oh shit, this guy's using my beat?
Lil Yachty for sure. That was crazy. Because like, I remember in grade 7, I was listening to Broccoli.
Yeah.
In grade 7 in middle school from Lil Yachty, and then fast forward almost 10 years later, this guy's rapping on it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I made that beat with Rokane actually. Rokane.
Very cool.
He's from Detroit. He was one of the most like one of the hottest rappers in Detroit for about like 10 or 11 years ago, and for a while. He actually pioneered a lot of the sound they hear these days from Detroit, even Philly. Those Philly beats like Skrilla, OT7 Kwani?
Yeah.
They're inspired from Detroit beats. They use the
For
same
sure.
they use the same drums and whatnot, And Rokane back then, he was making his own beats for his tracks he was rapping on and whatnot. A lot of the progression for like the little for like the percussions that you hear on those Detroit beats, he came up with like the flow for them. And like, we all stand on shoulders of giants as producers. We don't steal people's sounds, but we inspire our sounds from those ones. Rokane was definitely a big inspiration for how I make my drums on a lot of my like Detroit/Florida type beats for sure. So shout out to Rokane for sure. He definitely gave me that opportunity that I have for Lil Yachty, Lil Double O as well. And then for Skrilla, he actually found my beat off YouTube.
Oh,
it was it was IDK Mir that found my beat off of YouTube, and he did a track with Skrilla on it. Zen Man, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's been around for a while too. He's featured on Nino Page's new album. He's definitely upcoming too. Zen Man found it from YouTube also. So YouTube was pretty surprising to see that a lot of big artists do not actually have only exclusive producers sending them beats. It's no matter how big the rapper you are, you're probably going to go on YouTube and find beats too.
Yeah.
That was pretty surprising.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you were mentioning Rokane.
Yeah.
Somebody who helps you put together the Lil Yachty beat. When did you tap in with him?
So I'm going to start from how I actually even got to working with him. So
yeah.
I remember I was with my friend BG and DTP in the car in 2022 during the winter. And DTP queued a track, Matt Hardy by Baby Smooth, and then I'm like blasting that. It's fucking fire. I'm there like, holy fuck, it's a great track. And then ever since that day, like I kind of just went through Baby Smooth's like whole discography or however you say it on Spotify. And then the two producers behind most of his beats are Michigan Meech and Rokane. Michigan Meech made like the melodic ones, he's produced mostly for Dame Dawn and Baby Smooth. He made all the melodic shit like Losing My Mind, Overtime. Overtime was Energy. Michigan Meech made a lot of tracks for Baby Smooth and Rokane too. And that's when I kind of like switched my sound in a way from making a lot of rod wave beats mostly to like, all right, I'm fucking with the Detroit and Florida sound. Lil Tyler was also definitely a big influence on what made me get into Detroit music a lot for sure. Well, he's from Florida, but Florida, that specific niche that Lil Tyler created for Florida, along with Wiz Havin, kind of like inspired from Detroit too. Because I literally found a beat that Lil Tyler used from YouTube. It was a V's X Babyface Ray beat. It's like it roots from the same thing. And even Bossman and D-Lo, for example, his producers, Dante, Gentle Beats and whatnot, like back when Dante had I think maybe less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, he was making V's X Babyface Ray type beats,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much that.
That's sick. So when it comes to artists creating, obviously most people, they think, it's off the top. Most people actually have writers. Most people come in groups and it's not just strictly them writing. How do you feel though about artists using AI
Like for beats or for lyrics?
for lyrics.
For
So,
lyrics.
for example, like the Weeknd,
Yeah.
his latest track with Playboy Cardi, supposedly those his lyrics, both their lyrics, were made with AI.
No
The
way.
Weeknd came in after and then redid his part, but Cardi's part is fully AI. Do you feel like it takes away from the artistry, or do you think if it amplifies it, who cares?
At the end of the day, it's all going to be dependent on how the artist himself or herself feels about it, to be honest. If you know at the end of the day that you're okay using AI
Yeah.
and you like the music, cool. But at the end of the day, deep down, you're gonna know you didn't really write your own lyrics. It's not even in a bad way either. Like, people have ghostwriters. Party Next Door, for example, he wrote a lot of songs for Drake.
Yeah.
That was not Drake that wrote. Fuck, what was that track again? I can't remember. I think, but there was this because me sometimes what I do on the song on Spotify as a producer, I go and check the credits to see who the producer was. But then I see somebody wrote. So Party Next Door was one of the writers for Drake's songs, and they're like, "Huh, he was a songwriter too, huh?" Because he's an artist. So a lot of artists, they'll have ghostwriters, they'll have people that help them write. That's honestly not a bad thing at all. It just shows that behind the scenes of producing and writing, they can work together on and off the mic. And it's pretty cool, to be honest. But AI, of course, the only thing that makes it sad, quote unquote, is that it's not human.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're able to like write like humans in a way, which is pretty scary. If you see like AI like taking over and whatnot, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, like I said, to summarize it, basically, if you are an artist and you use AI and you're okay with it, cool. Just, at the end of the day that you did not write whatever AI it is.
Yeah. Do you feel like producers that will ever affect, like, will artists maybe chase more like AI generated beats than actually human made beats in the future?
Yeah, for sure. And the reason being is that the AI can just make it in a flip step, like in a flip second. You tell the artist, "Yo, make me a fucking Billie Eilish X Yeetus Beyonce beat." The AI is gonna be like, it's gonna just make it off the bat. And then you tell a producer that, you tell me, make you a Yeet X Billie Eilish X Beyonce type beat. I would look at you and I'd tell you like, what the fuck are you smoking?
Yeah.
Like it would be a pretty crazy question to ask. So I mean, AI, and also besides that, a lot of independent artists don't want to pay for the beats.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna get AI to do it for free, maybe, or however much they pay the AI.
Yeah.
And that's why, as a producer, I don't want to make producing my whole life. I have a life outside of this. I don't want to make producing my main income. Everybody has to get their own motion outside of this.
For sure. Do you ever see yourself maybe though doing something related to streaming? Because you see a producer like Blackboy Max, he's been going up like heavy this year and the end of last year, just off streaming and just off almost showing the like creative aspect really to the audience more than anyone else, where it's like from start to finish, you're seeing the artist go into the booth, you're seeing, maybe he's not making the beat on spot, but do you think you would ever do something like that and stream yourself with another artist making music?
I don't know, to be honest. Right now, I know for a fact that I won't, because I don't have time. I'm really locked in outside of this with my own like career grind for what I have going outside of music.
Sure.
I'm locked in with the gym, I do martial arts training as well outside of here. I can't find the time to really stream or do anything like content creation that much. I barely even have time to make beats these days, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, that's definitely like something I would see for in the future. I wouldn't mind doing it, but for right now, I'm not looking to go out of my way and start like a whole new grind, on top of what I have already.
Fair enough. And obviously it's very well known. Almost every famous producer has a very iconic producer tag.
Oh, yeah.
How important do you feel as a producer your tag is?
It depends. I mean, like, if the tag is gonna like ruin the song, quote unquote, then I don't mind. It's pretty much only that. The tag is for aesthetic. But if it comes to a big track, like, obviously I'd love to have my producer tag on that, but that's not how every artist is gonna work.
Sure.
My producer tag, what they mean to me though, how they came from. One of them is from literally just a Surf's Up movie because one of the main characters, guys, his name was Big Z. And it was
Okay,
like
okay.
I just searched up on YouTube Big Z, and then I think like we put the apostrophes on top, and then one of the movie clips that came up was just like an interview about one of the surfer penguins talking about Big Z, and I'm there like, this is a gold mine for producer tags right now. I could clip out like every part of that thing and make myself like a bunch of tags. And then the other one is one of the guys in the studio I was working with a lot in summer 2023, Saba. Bro, shout out to him for real. Like he always brought amazing energy to the studio, bro. He always was turned, he was ready to make music, and like that, he already was in the booth once. He's like, "Who's that guy? Big Z," you know, like in the booth, full of energy, and like, "Yo, hold up, let me save that real quick." And that's how that came to life, you know.
Okay, okay, that's sick. And yeah, sometimes that's how it is when it comes organically. It just comes out the best.
Exactly.
Speaking a bit more about producers, if you had a Mount Rushmore producers, top 4 all-time producers, it doesn't have to be in any exact list of who's your favorite and who's like least favorite out of those 4, but just top 4 producers, who would those be?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I have a lot of them. I would say one of them, Cardo, for sure. He was definitely also a big influence for a lot of the Detroit sound. He was more West Coast oriented though, so definitely Cardo. Lex Luger,
Yeah.
huge influence. He's like legendary. Lex Luger for sure.
Do you think anyone out of anyone out of Detroit, I guess you could say, who's your number one maybe out of Detroit?
Out of Detroit, I have a lot of producers that I fuck with from Detroit.
Yeah.
Probably one of the people that brought it most to life, like I said earlier, probably Rokane too.
Yeah.
A few notable other producers, you know, like I don't know about a top, like I don't like the whole 4, it's like pretty limiting, but
That's fair.
a lot of the, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so like Rokane for sure, huge influence in Detroit. John Boy as well from Detroit. Michigan Mish definitely had a big influence in Detroit as well. Energy Beats for sure, but that's more for like the Flynn type of sound.
Yeah.
That would be for like Detroit, like a nice top 4. There's also the other people as well, like RJ Lamont, like a bunch of other producers from Detroit as well. And it's really based on the sound and whatnot. You know, I could make a whole other Mount Rushmore for like underground producers and whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
If I had like to choose 4 of them in general, it would be like pretty hard, you know?
That's fair.
So yeah, Cardo, Lex Luger for like the top 2 for sure that I see on the Mount Rushmore. Probably, what was that guy's name again? Nah, I just had a brain fart. I can't think anymore for that.
That's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
Cardo and Lex Luger, we'll keep that for now. If it comes back to me later, I'll bring it up for sure.
That's fair. Did you ever like listen, or were you ever inspired by maybe like more of the bigger name guys like Scott Storch, or like guys who were more, I guess you could say, whether it was 2010s or 2000s, more mainstream type guys, or were you somebody who was more interested in like underground producers?
Me, I never really got into rap that much in the early 2010s, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, the first trap song I ever heard in my life was Antidote by Travis Scott.
Yeah,
well, probably not. It was actually Trap Queen by Fetty Wap. But like,
Okay.
I didn't even know the name of the song when I heard it, you know?
Yeah.
I just heard it blasting all around the place. I'm like, what is this song? You know? Too young to have a phone either. My mom did not let me get a phone till like grade 6 at least. So I mean, like, I was just like out of the mix completely.
Yeah.
Growing up with like the whole music scene and whatnot. But no, yeah. Kanye's definitely a pretty good producer as well, but Kanye's Kanye, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, I won't get too much into that, but he's made a lot of, he's very good at producing for sure.
That's fair. Do you think he's a better producer than artist or lyricist?
I think he's a better producer, to be honest. Because the way he's able, have you ever seen that video of him making a beat before? Like, you can tell Kanye being an artist is a bonus. Kanye is a producer, in my opinion. In my very own humble opinion, Kanye is a producer way more than an artist.
Do you feel like it's a combination of artist and producer chemistry, or do you think that if a producer is really good, it's like, forgetting his name now, but or take Heath.
Yeah,
Do you think that Blockboy JB would ever have been what he was without Tay Keith?
absolutely not.
Is that something where do you think that a artist relies more on a producer than a producer relies on an artist?
Really, they rely on each other equally
Okay.
because the song is nothing without the beat, unless it's intentionally made to be without the beat. Like RXK nephew, he did that once. He just started straight up rapping with no beat. Okay, that's a different story. But the song is nothing without the beat, but the beat is nothing without the artist rapping on it, making the song what it is. So it's unfair to say really the producer, the artist, blah blah, this and that. I do feel like producers though, possibly like I don't know what goes on in the industry behind closed doors because I'm not really there. But obviously people talk about like a lot of slimy shit going on, and artists like probably overworking the fuck out of their producers. So I mean like the producers probably get exhausted at one point just for the artist to choose like one out of like 70 beats the producer already made. That could be something that happens like for sure. It all depends on how much you are like established talent, I would say.
So we're just at the beginning of the year. It's just the start of 2025 right now. For you, obviously, you just dropped Catching Z's at the end of last year. What do you have planned for the rest of 2025?
Oh yeah. So me, I have a deluxe plan for your Catching Z's.
Dope.
I have a deluxe planned. I don't know when I'm gonna drop it. It could be even by 2026. I might drop it. All depends on if I have time for it. But hopefully a deluxe. A lot of other projects too. BG, Ramsey, and the whole collective that we have going on times 10. We're planning a few projects for that, so definitely stay tuned. Definitely a lot of heaters coming from that. And there's one friend that I also have, Soulja, trying to get an executive produced album from me. Definitely looking forward to that too. And that's what I have for 2025 so far. Other projects as well, looking to collab more with other producers that have sent me loops. I'm very picky though when it comes to that. But that's pretty much what I have for the vision for 2025.
That's sick, bro. That's sick. So for the people, where can they find you on social media?
At Big Z Legacy on IG.
Nice. Anywhere else if they want to get beats or anything like that, if they want to maybe book a session with you?
Yeah, booking a session, get in contact with me through DMs.
Yeah.
And then for beats, I included my track train in my bio. Like link and it shows you all the links and whatnot.
Yeah.
I've included it in that.
Okay, sick, man. Again, appreciate you doing this and
Yes,
sitting down and
sir.
having this chat, bro. It's really cool to have a producer in here and get insight from the other side. And yeah, man, thank you for doing this today.
Yeah, bro, no problem. Pleasure being here.
Yeah, for sure, bro. That was the Big Z interview. That's my guy, Big Z.
Yes, sir.
Peace, y'all.